Hi, welcome back to the Biblically Inspired Life. Last year, I made a video that was a little bit more comprehensive about Rosh HaShana. And so this year, I thought I would make one about one aspect of the holiday. And then at the end of this video, you'll find a very simple recipe for an apple tart. Apples are a traditional food during Rosh HaShana, and so you might want to try this tart for part of your celebration. Today, I thought that I would speak about the shofar, which is sounded during this holiday. If you look in the Bible, Rosh Hashanah is called by two different names. The first one is Yom Teruah, which is basically the day of sounding, and Zikaron Teruah, which is found in Leviticus 23, which is the remembering the sounding. So both of those names are used in the Bible for this holiday, and you might wonder, what is sounding? What is blasting? And that is the shofar. Now, the most common type of horn to use for a shofar is a ram's horn. And there are others, such as an ibex even, which can be used, which is kosher to use as a shofar. But the most common is a ram's horn. And if you look at the ram's horn, it is bent. There's a curling to it. And we think of that in two ways. One of them is to turn away from our sin and turn towards God. And we also think of it as in pursuing God. So if you think about the shofar and the bending of it, you will see a picture of us turning and bending towards God, pursuing God and His will for our lives. So you'll see many different aspects within Judaism, within celebrating holidays that have a symbolism to them. There are two blessings which are said before the sounding of the shofar. The first one is, "Blessed are you, our God, King of the universe, who commanded us to hear the sound of the shofar." And the second one is, "Blessed are you, our God, O Lord of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this occasion." Now, the sounding of the ram's horn of the shofar is very important because in the Bible, that is what the mitzvah is. It's to hear the sounding of the shofar. And so it's very important to the people to be able to go to the synagogue and hear it. Sometimes there are soundings of it outside somewhere so that you can hear it. But this is a very important aspect of the holiday. It's actually, biblically speaking, the main emphasis of the holiday is to blow and sound the shofar. Now, in the sounding of the shofar, there are three different lengths of blowing. So one is a long sound, then there's a medium, and then there's a little staccato sound. So those names are called tekiah, which is the single long blast, the shevarim, which are the three medium length blasts, and the last one is teruah, which has at least 9 staccato blasts. And these sounds are put together in a specific order so that in the end, there are usually 100 blasts altogether, or 130. There's different traditions, different customs amongst the different communities, but those are what are typically done. And the shofar is blown after the Torah reading and again during the Amidah. So you have the first set that's blown during the Chazan's repetition of the Musaf Amidah and a Chazan is a cantor. Maybe many of you have heard of a cantor that leads the prayer service. In Hebrew, it's called the Chazan. And then the second time is during the when the congregation is standing in prayer, and then they do that sounding again. So it's very important to hear the sounding of the shofar. Now, as I said in my previous video, Rosh HaShana is one of those holidays that in the Bible it's one day, and then within Judaism it's 2 days. Now, what's unique about this holiday, is that it's also 2 days within Israel. Usually a lot of the holidays are an extra day outside of Israel, but this is the one holiday where it's the same inside of Israel as outside of Israel. And the only time that you don't blow the shofar on both days is if one of those days falls on Shabbat. You don't sound the shofar on Shabbat. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention to you is that the shofar blowing can mean different things beyond the normal thing, but like I'm going to just read. This is from a Hasidic periodical that I have. But here are some of the reasons that make this mitzvah very special. Its piercing wail serves to awaken slumbering souls that have grown complacent. It evokes the shofar blasts that were heard when God descended on Mount Sinai and gave us the Torah. It's made of a ram's horn. The shofar recalls the near sacrifice of Isaac, who was saved when God showed Abraham a ram to bring as an offering in his stead. It foreshadows the day of judgment at the end of days, which the prophet describes as a day of shofar and alarm against the fortified cities and against the high towers. It gives us hope, mirroring the sound of the great shofar that will call together the Jewish people who are scattered to the corners of the earth at the time of the coming of Messiah. And also it reminds us of the revival of the dead, that is, resurrection, about which we read, "Dwellers of the earth, a shofar is sounded, you shall hear." So this, as believers, should also be a reminder to us. And since Rosh Hashanah takes place shortly before Yom Kippur, this a revival of slumbering people who have grown complacent, this is a great opportunity for us to spend then the next several days in preparation for Yom Kippur. And when we gather next together for my video on Yom Kippur, I'll have some ideas of how you can prepare yourself better for that holiday. But for now, I want to say Chag Sameach to you, Happy Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, Zikaron Teruah, and I hope that you'll stay tuned for the apple tart recipe. So God bless you and have a great day. Hi, so today I'm going to show you how to make an apple tart, which should be a great asset to your Rosh Hashanah celebration. Now, to begin with, I'm going to have to deal with these 5 apples. 2 of them are going to go in the body of the tart, and then the 3 remaining ones are going to be sliced up into small, real thin slices and look really pretty and decorative around the top. So let me do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have cut up 2 of the apples into, well, a little bit smaller than quarters actually. And you're going to place those into a blender. This is kind of a blender smoothie maker thing, so hopefully that's going to work. We're going to follow up with 120 grams of sugar, which is 4.2 ounces, and I'll put all of the ingredients and the quantities in the show notes below. So I have that in here, and I also put in the 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So you add that. Then we have 2 eggs. And we have flour, which is 6.3 ounces or 180 grams. And let me tell you, something that's great to have in the kitchen that does not cost very much money at all, but is very helpful, is a small scale like this. So what I did was I put the bowl on, reset it to 0, and then was able to add the ingredient and measure it accurately. So you take all of these items, the eggs, my milk, 6 ounces of milk. So I need to see that, which is right here. So you take 6 ounces of milk and add that in. It's always good to reread your recipe so you don't forget anything, isn't it? Okay, so you add the eggs, milk, sugar, baking powder, and flour. Then I'm going to put it in my blender, and I'll mix it for 2 to 3 minutes until it's smooth. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and pulsed this and smoothed it, and it should be ready to pour in. So I will pour it into my pan. And this is a spring-form pan, so it's one of those where you can open up the side and take it off. And so I'm getting all of that off and out. Great. Okay. So the next step is to take the apples that remain, and you're going to slice them into very small, thin slices and place them around the top of your tart. So let me do that, and I'll show you what it's like when it's done. So now I have completed laying the slivers of apple around, and this is what it looks like. I hope you can see it. It's kind of hard to show it without it moving around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my oven over here, which has been preheated to 180 degrees Celsius, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to put this in the oven and cook it for about 45 minutes. And when I'm done with that, I'll be back. Hi, welcome back. We're going to see how the tart has turned out. So I'm going to just go over here to the oven and take it out. So you can see, hopefully, that it did turn out okay. So what I'm going to do now is let it sit and start cooling. And then we will unmold it. So we'll take it out of this after it is cooled down a little bit. Now, in the meantime, I want to tell you about the last step. I have taken some apricot jam and I've added a little bit of water to it. Now what I'm going to do at the end of this, I'm going to stir this up, mix it up, and then I'm going to put it in the microwave for just a few seconds. And then I'm going to take this pastry brush and I'll brush it over here. So let it cool for a little bit, and then I will heat this up and put this on, and I'll let you see what the end product is. So see you in a few minutes. Hi, so I've finished up making the tart and I put the glaze on top, which I think really adds to it. It really makes it look a lot better. Now what I'll say about this recipe is I made too large of a tart for the size. So it's a very thin tart, which can still be very nice with some ice cream or whipped cream or something like this. But it might be better in a smaller pan. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, this, for those who are concerned, this is a dairy recipe. It has milk in it. And if you wanted to, you could probably put something like an almond milk or something might taste really lovely in it. So don't shy away from it just because it's dairy. You can make it a parfait, a dairy-free one, by just changing the milk to whatever your favorite milk substitute is. So anyway, I want to say Chag Sameach. Have a wonderful Rosh HaShana, and perhaps you'd like to try this dessert. Until next time, God bless you.